Aloha, everybody. This is Cathy Bilsky, the Quantum Leap, Let Light Unite. And this is November 21st, 2023. Today, I wanted to do something funny and share with you something funny and, I don't know, maybe make you laugh and get your energy up a little bit because things are so serious on the planet. Um, Before I do that, ooh, there we go. Let me change my Facebook page. Perfect. Whew, all right. So every now and then I find something that I think is really, really funny. And I came across this story, and oh my God, I could not stop laughing. So as I'm telling this story, I want you to close your eyes and listen to my words and actually imagine this happening. Okay? Can you do that for me? Awesome. So let's start. So it's actually called Deer Hunters, but I call it Deer Hunter versus the deer. Now, this is a letter from someone who wants to remain anonymous, and you're going to understand why, who farms, writes well, and actually tried this. I had this idea that I could rope a deer, put it in a stall, feed it up on corn for a couple weeks, then kill it and eat it. The first step in this adventure was getting a deer. I figured that since they congregate at my cattle feeder and do not seem to have much fear of me when we are there, a bold one will sometimes come right up and sniff at the bags of feed while I am in the back of the truck, not 4 feet away. It should not be difficult to rope one, get up to it, toss a bag over its head to calm it down, then hog tie it and transport it home. I filled the cattle feeder, then hid down at the end with my rope. The cattle, having seen the roping thing before, stayed well back. They were not having any of it. After about 20 minutes, my deer showed up, 3 of them. I picked out a likely looking one, stepped out from the end of the feeder and threw my rope. The deer just stood there and stared at me. I wrapped the rope around my waist and twisted the end so I could give it and have a good hold. The deer just stood and stared at me, but you can tell it was mildly concerned about the whole rope situation. I took a step towards it. It took a step away. I put a little tension on the rope and then received an education. The first thing that I learned is that while a deer may just stand there looking at you funny while you rope it, you start pulling on that rope. That deer exploded. The second thing I learned is that pound for pound, a deer is a lot stronger than a cow or a colt. A cow or a colt in that weight range, I could fight down with a rope and with some dignity. A deer, no chance. That thing ran and bucked and twisted and pulled. There was no controlling it and certainly no getting close to it. As it jerked me off my feet and started dragging me across the ground, it occurred to me that having a deer on a rope was not nearly as good an idea as I had originally imagined. The only upside is that they do not have as much stamina. Oh, the only upside is that they do not have as much stamina as many other animals. A brief 10 minutes later, it was tired and not nearly as quick to jerk me off my feet and drag me when I managed to get up. It took me a few minutes to realize this, since I was mostly blinded by the blood flowing out of the big gash in my head. At that point, I had lost my taste for corn-fed venison. I just wanted to get that devil creature off the end of that rope. I figured if I just let it go, that the rope hanging around its neck, it would likely die slowly and painfully somewhere. At the time, there was no love at all between me and that deer. At that moment, I hated the thing, and I would venture a guess that the feeling was mutual. Despite the gash in my head and several large knots where I had clearly arrested the deer's momentum by bracing my head against various large rocks as it dragged me across the ground, I know it's not funny. I could still think clearly enough to recognize that there was a small chance that I shared some tiny amount of responsibility for the situation we were in. I didn't want the deer to have to suffer a slow death. So I managed to get it lined back up in between my truck and the feeder, a little trap I had set beforehand, kind of like a squeeze chute. I got it to back in there and I started moving so I could get my rope back. Did you know that deer bite? They do. I never in a million years would have thought that a deer would bite somebody. So I was very surprised when I reached up there to grab that rope and the deer grabbed hold of my wrist. Now, when a deer bites you, it's not like being bit by a horse where they just bite you and slide off and then let go. A deer bites you and shakes its head, almost like a big dog. They bite hard and it hurts. The proper thing to do when a deer bites you is probably to freeze and draw back slowly. Sorry. I tried screaming and shaking instead. My method was ineffective. It seems like the deer was biting and shaking for several minutes, but it was likely only several seconds. I, being smarter than a deer, though you may be questioning that claim by now, tricked it. While I kept it busy tearing the tendons out of my right arm, I reached up with my left hand and pulled that rope loose. That was when I got my final lesson in deer behavior for the day. Deer will strike at you with their front feet. They rear right up on their back feet and strike right about your head and shoulder level, and their hooves are surprisingly sharp. I learned a long time ago when an animal, like a horse, strikes at you with their hooves and you can't get away easily, the best thing to do is try to make a loud noise and make an aggressive move towards the animal. This will usually cause them to back down a bit so you can escape. This was not a horse. This was a deer, so obviously such trickery would not work. In the course of a millisecond, I devised this different strategy. I screamed like a woman and tried to turn and run. The reason I had always been told not to try and turn and run from a horse that paws at you is that there is, oh dear, a good chance that it will hit you in the back of the head. Deer may not be so different from horses after all, besides being twice as strong and 3 times as evil, because the second I turned to run, it hit me right at the back of the head and knocked me down. Now, when a deer paws at you and knocks you down, it doesn't immediately leave. I suspect it does not recognize that the danger is past. What they do instead is paw your back and jump up and down on you while you're laying there crying like a little girl and covering your head. I finally managed to crawl under the truck and the deer went away. So now I know why when people go deer hunting, they bring a rifle with a scope to sort of even the odds. All these events are true, so help me God, an educated farmer. The end. Well, I hope you got a laugh out of that. And the end of this month, full moon, November 27th, we're doing more energy work, quantum leaping the world into divine enlightenment. We're going to chant for 1 hour and pull that energy down again. And this is number 11 out of 11. We've done it once every month. So I hope you can join us this time. Tell people about it. The more the merrier. You know, if you have joined me in the past, the old chant will work. You know, I might have added a few new ones, but no worries. Um, so with the time change, you know, we're going to do it 5 o'clock Hawaiian time. It'll be 7 o'clock Pacific time and 10 o'clock Eastern time. Makes it much easier to do. And for 1 hour, we're going to chant, may divine enlightenment descend on everyone now. May divine enlightenment awaken within everyone now. So we'll do that for 3 times, and then we'll go on to the next chant. So again, I hope you can join us. I'm in for quantum leaping the world into divine enlightenment. I mean, is this not a better time? What are we waiting for? I mean, how much worse does the planet have to get before you all start taking some action and join us? Anyway, have a wonderful holiday, and I hope that this story, which I thought was funny, made you laugh a little bit. On that note, aloha until the next time.